Go.
All right. So thank you everybody for joining us. I'm going to now do two things. We've got this we are recording this this live webinar. This is the first of many ConsLab discussions for distributed learning. Again, we're in a bit of a time of crisis with a lot of the schools closing. We're in a difficult situation. Many of us are now being forced to teach automotive and diesel technologies from isolation. So we're going to record this. I'm going to mute all of the participants, and then please, from this point onwards, send in your comments, questions, and requests through the chat, through the side. So if you just click on the little thing on the bottom, there's a choice to go through the chat box there. Let me just go over the other features I want to see. So some of the ideas we want to have any suggestions that you may have. Barriers. What are the obstacles that you have in front of you? You're asked now in this time of change to now teach from a distance. What is the obstacle? So please bring those forward. We also want, if you have ideas for future topics, when we see many people asking the same questions, we're going to spin this off into a next discussion for later this week, for later next week. And I just want to talk a little bit about who we've got on the line here, because you're going to see many people with these blue shirts, okay? And we do all work for ConsLab. ConsLab, we're a company that builds training aids, and yes, we do sell them. And of course, someday we want to sell them to your schools. But the goal of this discussion is not to be sales pitch. That's, you know, we're beyond that. I mean, in the time of crisis like this, it doesn't matter. The sales part of it, that's not the point of the discussion. Our point here is we have so many team members. The guys in blue that you see on the screen here, they have combined over 100 years of teaching experience. We've got guys from the West Coast to the East Coast and back again. And they have so much experience, so many ideas, and we have the advantage of having visited and spoken to so many schools that we can bring you kind of the best practices and share that with you, okay? And that's the goal of that today. The one other point before I hand this over to Jeff is that at ConsLab, we have had distributed teams now for many years. And in the last year or so, we've really hit our stride. This means that we have guys like Jeff, who's on the West Coast at a different time zone, Rick in the middle of the country, Tim down in Oklahoma, we've got Jimmy in Ohio, I'm in Quebec City. And, you know, we work day in, day out remote. We've been doing it. We've hit our stride. We know the best practices. We know how to get a team to work together and to teach remotely and to work as a team remotely. So we've adopted a lot of that, and we do that in our daily lives. So we want to share those best practices with you guys as well. So I'll be kind of moderator for this, just making sure that everything's okay. I'll intervene with the questions to Jeff. Jeff is going to be leading this with Tim as a collaborator. So without further ado, Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. We cooked this up over the last week or so, and we decided that what we really wanted to build was some community around and offer community to other instructors and help as we can. But realizing that while we have that 100 years worth of experience, you know, out there, how many we got 30 plus in this meeting, well, that adds up to more than the sum of all of us. So you are important, and we want to, number one, we want to respect your time. So we're going to hold this to 30 minutes. We don't really want this to be a bitch session. There are many things wrong in the world. We're not going to fix them here. Hopefully what we're going to work on here is how you reach the student learner, which is, I think, the most important thing that we would come away from this. But do that within a community that will try to help each other and support each other. And to respect that time, we're going to hold it to 30 minutes. I think of a couple of things that really guided me early in my teaching that really made me stop back and take stock in what it is we're doing. And a couple of things came to mind that I was told once early on is to teach little, but teach that little well. So this is an opportunity to break your instruction down into small pieces that you can get done daily. Ideally, your instruction, if you could accomplish just one thing a day, and then that would be done. Your head you would be. One thing may be we have to start small and build. One thing that comes to mind is if you're running if you have a class that usually meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m., I would be having a live online meeting with every student at 8 a.m. every morning. It would only last 15 minutes, maybe, where we plan the work, we assign the work, we have the method of assessment, and then we celebrate and build on those one things at a time. Little things, little. If we just chew off a little bit and we make a mistake and we fail, well, that's okay. We're gonna fail. So let's make our failures early, so that we can readjust and readapt and do something that works. We've experienced this over the past couple of years, as Nathan has said.
And one of the points to that is the point to remember for this is that if you're starting to host classes or speak to your students or continue on teaching from a distance, the human aspect of it, if your students are all there at 9 o'clock every day, or maybe a little bit late, but they're all there at 9 o'clock, having that touch point of saying, guys, 9 o'clock every day, everyone log in here. We're going to take 5-10 minutes. We're going to get started for the day. You don't want to spend your whole day on the phone on a video call with 20 people. It's not going to be fun. But taking the time at the beginning of the day at a set hour, at a set time, and keeping that regularity, that schedule in place, really, we found that is something that has helped us. And this is something that you could do with your students, or even if you're in the administrative staff, this is something you could do across with your instructors. So if you now have 10, 20 instructors working remotely, you can instigate and say, okay, every day we're going to meet at this time. We're just going to have a quick little huddle, talk, make sure we're all on the same page, and then go about your day. That's been one of the best practices that we've seen working remotely.
Now, they may not all have a computer at their desk or whatever else, but most students have this in their pocket, right? So that's going to be a pretty powerful tool to connect with your students. And once we have that meeting, and once we establish the regularity, and we come up with assignments and assessments to move along, that's going to be a thing. I see, one question is, what ideas you suggest for less fortunate students who may not have computer access? Joe, I think that's that's something, a larger problem that we're probably not going to be able to solve at this point. We may have suggestions as a team, you may have, but we don't have an answer right now. But let me move along. Teaching that little and teaching it well, breaking our lists down into what is it that what does the student today absolutely need to walk out the door with, or lock their computer down with at the end of the day? What can they do in one day? And then tomorrow we build on that. The same thing we're going to do here. So what we're looking for in your chat is, what are your stumbling blocks?
So Jeff, do you want me to chime in with some of the ones we've already got lined up?
See the list.
Okay, so some of there's one which again, this was brought up earlier, is the challenge for various access to technology. And I'm going to expand on that a little bit, is that we see both from the teacher standpoint and the student standpoint, there's a lot of disparity. There's people that are super technologically inclined. They've got a big PC at home with a headset. They're ready to go. And then you've got other either people with a different background. If you got instructors that might be getting a little bit on in age that have less experience with technology, that can be a big challenge. That's one that was brought up by one of our attendees earlier, is that, if we're trying to ask all of the staff to now teach remotely, and the average age of the instructor is over 50 and they're not technologically inclined, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do to help? So there's levels of challenge from the technological standpoint. There's levels of access, because you have students that are less less fortunate that may not have even the phone in their pocket. They may not have access to the computer. Some of the suggestions have come back, things like libraries, things like some services which allow you to phone in via landline or a cell phone to participate in the meeting, even though you wouldn't visually see everything that's going on. So can you talk maybe to that point?
Yes. I could be running this meeting from my smartphone. We have the technology in our pocket. The stumbling point, and I see Joe, I'm kind of answering your question, but I don't know, gaming console, but we're going to put that on the list. Is there somebody else doing it? That's what we hope to build within this little community right here, is that somebody says, well, hey, yeah, we're using that. We've done that for years, and they can help you with it. So we view ourselves as connectors and facilitators. So, Tim, what would be one of the things that you would put on your list that you think may help, or that is a stumbling block for your instruction?
I think it's important to take one step back and look at some of these questions and know that there is no answer. We talked about how much experience is in this room right now, but I've never gone through anything like what we're going through right now. And I'm going to agree with you. We can't teach technology without hands-on. I'm going to agree with you. Some students are not online learners. I get all of that, but that isn't the hand we're dealt right now. So we have to actually just kind of make it work with what we have and not just sit around. And so that was the whole point of this particular webinar, and this daily meeting was to share ideas and to like Jeff says, teach. Even if we teach a little, we don't have to waste this time. And who knows, maybe this is a new way that you're going to present materials to students, even after the quarantine is over, et cetera. Maybe you find that this works in some cases better than maybe, face to face, or maybe there's some preparation that could be done online for when they come to class. There's a lot more, they can be more active in the shop because they came prepared. So there's some positive spin to this whole thing. And like I said, there's a lot of buttons on computers that I haven't touched, and we might be touching them now because we're forced to, and find out that they're tools. They're really good tools. So I don't want to say stumbling blocks. I think I'm looking at the positive side. It's a step backwards probably to go forwards, and I'm not comfortable with some stuff, probably more so recently because of what Nathan was saying. We've been doing this for a couple of years here, and man, we have screwed up some stuff, but we have also we've also gotten pretty comfortable with it. And I don't think we would be able to get as much done as we do without our meetings every day. And sometimes it's too many meetings, but for the most part, we're good at meetings, and we can kind of help you guys with what works in a meeting, and then I think eventually what we're going to look for from you all is, because this is for you all, this isn't for us. I mean, we're not, I don't have an empty classroom that I'm having to deal with. We want subjects and possibly even, guest speakers and things to come onto this deal that could benefit you. Will we involve students at some point in time? Maybe. I mean, I think maybe there could be some interaction from them too, but we have to kind of get our plan down first. And our plan is to listen to you. And that's kind of what we want to do today.
So I'm going to intervene with some of the comments and questions, because if we look at the spectrum, if we look at, on the one side, we're all in a class, all 50 some of us, we're all at the same place. We can all see each other. We're in front of a car. We're in front of some training aids. We're talking. We're working. We're going through the normal teaching style. And on the other end of the spectrum, as was mentioned earlier, is a completely online course where you never see the student. And from the comments and from what I've heard, I don't think there's anyone here that believes that we could 100% teach either automotive or diesel at the one end of the spectrum where it's fully online. There is so much of the practical assessments, there's teaching of hands-on, there's a lot of learning that really would be very difficult to do without a hands-on portion. And somewhere in between, we're forced now, for many of us, we've been teaching here where we're all in the shop and we're doing everything as we have in the past. And now we're forced in these coming weeks to do it at the other end of the spectrum. So in between the two, there's a lot of interesting best practices that have been brought up that some of you did in the shop, that some of you may start doing now online. Some of the comments have been around things like learning logs, talking about practical assessments or practicing hands-on when you don't have a shop. And then probably, and I think I've already identified this, I put this on one of my lists for a future topic, because I think the biggest one that keeps coming back through all of your comments and questions is platform. What do I do? Do I use Microsoft Teams? Do I use Zoom? Do I use Desire to Learn? Do I do it through Electu? Do I do it with CDX? Do I do it with my publisher, with peer? What do I do? What platforms? And probably we're going to have an entire discussion dedicated to those different types of platforms and resources out there to you. And where was I going with this? My point of this was where have you guys moved in the past, or where can you talk to between those two ends of the spectrum where you've had the success? One of them that was brought up earlier was kind of the hybrid, where a lot of the theoretical and classroom learning is done at a distance, and that then the hands-on is still done in the shop. I believe there's one of the attendees that is doing that right now. Very fortunate, because a lot of the other schools are locked out. So can you talk maybe to those points of the different ends of the spectrum, different practices that you guys can do now, and then we'll have to call up another topic, another discussion in the future, just dedicated to the different platforms for teaching.
Yes, I'll do that, and then I'd like to hear from Rick and Tim as well, and Dick if he's available. So that's a great timeline you put up, Nathan. That shows not a timeline, but the line of fully online and fully in the shop.
Spectrum, yeah.
Is the spectrum of it. What I found in the past when I implemented learning portfolios is that it was a real targeted thing. And one of the things I used for the heavy duty guys, recommended practice 618 of the American Trucking Association, adjusting wheel bearings. And if you go on YouTube with my J. Curtis 4082 as a search tool, you will find my students doing recommended practice 618. One student has 60,000 hits on his 6-minute video of him adjusting the wheel bearing to the recommended practice. So to me, that's evidence of work, and it's a method of assessment. He puts it in his learning portfolio. I assess that. I'm done.
So maybe, Jeff, if you could explain, I'm sure there's many of us that are not familiar with your definition of a learning portfolio and what that would entail, because this is an interesting way to measure a student's practical abilities. Not all schools are going to have that, but I can think of certain schools that have work placements or apprenticeship programs where the students might, even despite the quarantine or isolation, they might still be working in the shop. And now here is a method where you could ask your students to do a self-practical assessment, film themselves doing the task, post it up, and now you have a measurable, now you're able to demonstrate and show that your students have practiced and have learned something, and then you could even theoretically grade them on that. So could you maybe explain what the learning portfolio is like?
Okay, well, within Canvas, and I'm pretty sure most of the learning management systems, there is a process for blogs. And this is I like blogs because it's like the Dead Sea Scrolls, you know, the newest thing is on top. I had students, they were required to turn in a weekly blog, and within that blog, they had to make a list of a few things that they have done. Then they also needed to reflect on their learning. They needed to give me 2 or 3 lines on today I learned, or this week I learned this and this. One thing is good enough. But then the writing of that, writing for reflection. Do you know a service manager anywhere in the light duty or heavy duty industry that doesn't need people that can fill out a warranty report and a work order? And one of the biggest complaints we get from some of those folks is the student can't fill out a warranty report, they can't type, they don't know how to write a story. So here, we're teaching them how to write that story by giving them positive feedback. We have a rubric to grade on. It's very simple. Starts way, I mean, many of these things are going to start so simple that you're going to go, why would I do that? But then you'll get a bunch of students that will fail at that, and you'll go, oh, I didn't do my work in presenting this material correctly, and you'll be able to correct those students as they move along their path, so that in the end, they're not going to be a Hemingway, but they can write out a warranty report and get paid on it. And that's what the service manager wants. And of course, the GM wants that as well.
So what we're saying is to focus in the coming days and weeks on some of the not quite soft skills, but the other skills that do not require practical assessment, that does not require access to a truck or a car to work on them, and to focus on that. Now, I'm going to just repeat myself. We're going to do we'll announce a date forthcoming to do a discussion dedicated just to the different platforms. That's coming back through all the questions. Another thing that's being commented and questions about is what other resources are there available out there right now? And without going too much into a sales pitch, because that's not the point of this, we do want to share that there are many resources out there. I mean, if there's anything, Consulab website, for any of the resources that we have on our website, if you create a login, we'll give you guys access, regardless of whether your school has purchased the equipment. We'll give you guys access to any of our curriculum and resource materials. We'll give that to you guys. You can send in a request, and we'll give that to you guys at no charge, free. I know that our partner company, Electude, who does online learning and has their own LMS, they also have opened up for the rest of the school year free access. And we also have products that are integrated into Electude with courseware specific to the products. I know that one of the publishers, also James Halderman, has opened up access on his website. So there's resources. We're seeing that the community, across many different companies and countries, we're seeing everyone get together and open up the doors to give you guys more resources. So I wanted to at least bring that up. And are there other free resources or other resources that you guys have heard of, or industry partners that you've heard of that are giving up new resources to you that you wish to share? Jeff, Tim, do you have any other ones to add to that? And anyone else, if you want to throw those into the comments, we'll share all those various resources that are out there.
I think Jimmy's typing in the ones that I know of, but I had a question too, and this is to, I guess, make this more than just a discussion type of an event every day. Would there be value, and just type yes or no in the chat box, would there be value if we were to provide little short videos that you used kind of like in a flipped classroom type of a deal, where you challenge your students to solve a problem that maybe we present in a really short video. So basically we become a resource for you too. And I mean, we'd love to do that. We just don't know if that's of value. And then part of my question was, I mean, I have no idea where you all are at and what has to be finished before now and the end of the semester. If there's a particular, an abundance of one subject that, you put in this chat room and say, I have to finish drivability before the end of the year, or electricity, electronics, whatever. And we start seeing that, then we could start making really short, challenging videos that would become a resource for you to put out to your students. Let them maybe discuss it as a group, and then come back and discuss it online too. And there's great value in those kind of discussions. More so with their hands on, but we can't do that. So we have to kind of adapt, and that was my thought.
One of the other comments it was actually a comment from Consulab, from the president of Consulab, from Kevin, is that we could do, and this is probably something that we'd like to have your feedback and suggestions. We could do and essentially do a dry run for you guys, an example of running through a class. Bring you guys through a training exercise to see what it feels like, to see how it works. Now, we're not going to do that tomorrow with your students, but we can do that with you so that you can have the experience of it as a student. because this is one of the other points that I had written down in the comments and ideas is, we really want to share our experiences for those of us that have participated in online distance-based learning, because a lot of us, any of us, I know I've tried distance-based learning and I failed. And many of us have tried so. We've started courses and never finished. And now our students are going to be facing that same reality. So one of the ideas for a future topic, and thank you for that, Kevin, is for us to run through, and we'll have a class prepared and of course outline it and everything prepared, and have you guys to participate on as students. And we could do so. Jeff could do a class, Tim, Rick, Dick, any of our educational experts, we could give one of those classes. And like we're seeing in the comments, you guys would be able to participate and have that dry run and go through it and see it from the perspective of a student and go, man, that was really boring, or that was not that bad. If I was to do it, because then you're going to think, if I was to do it, I would do it this way. Well, now you're already thinking and planning of how you're going to do it. This is exactly what we're trying to do to help you guys. So
I'd like to.
Looks like we've got Rick.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Well, I've been here.
No, we know that, but you're here to share some of your tome of knowledge.
One of the things that I would like to challenge is, don't try to recreate a way to take the material you're already using and put it in something exactly new. You got to think outside the box a little bit. And one of the things that I've found successful over the years is start looking at things like case studies. So that they have to go and practice the use of their knowledge. Yeah, we would like them to be working on whatever component there is, but that's not what's happening right now. So if you start looking at an analysis, rather than a test, but multiple questions on the same diagnostic. So if you find a case study somewhere or something you want them to solve, and that they could use the tools that they've already got. So if you start working with those types of things, I think can help a lot too. Just creating scenarios, get those from various places as well. And, they have to submit that work, and, then there's corrective. It could be a discussion at the end of the day, everybody gets it, and then you reconvene in a meeting for 20 minutes and people report out what they've done. So those are just another way to go and do things.
So as we come close to our time box here, we're a couple minutes out. I'm going to hang around here afterwards, but we're going to stop this portion of the meeting and the recording right on the it's right on the half hour, so we can further discuss those. What's also going to happen, we're going to make a list, we're going to push a list out, and we're going to want you to sort that list, and then we're going to compile all that, bring it back tomorrow. And we're going to start working from the top down.
So the two major future meeting topics that we've come up with is one, maximizing and comparing and how to use the various platforms that you may already have at your disposal. The other one is, and we've seen lots of people second that, of doing a dry run class. So we'll have to think about various topics. We'll probably send out a survey or some type of communication to you guys to get feedback from you of which ones you would like to see. And then, of course, we'll be back here tomorrow at the same time, at the same place, using the same meeting link. So we will continue doing this every business day at the same time to continue the discussion. We'll continue with the various topics and hopefully be able to help share different best practices with you guys so we can continue and keep on keeping on during this isolation. Yeah, we'll continue.
Jimmy, Tim, you got anything to follow up with in closure?
I'm excited. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I think this is just, I don't know, a great way to bring everybody. I think crisis brings people together. I think we're going to find we can do stuff that we didn't know we could do. We want to help. I think we're going to be able to do things that we've wanted to do too, that we've gotten kind of bogged down in some of the daily stuff, that this is going to allow some creativity that hopefully will help everybody.
Yeah. Jimmy? Got to unmute.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. This has been tremendous. At one point we had over 60 people in here, which is amazing for the first time out. I want everybody to realize this is this isn't the way it's going to be every single time. Let's make this, make this something you can use as a resource, and hopefully take notes and share, and let's group think this through, and we're all going to get through this. It's fine.
We're here to help. We're here to help
Yes.
you guys. We say we're here to help you guys, helping you teach technology. Everything that we do at ConstLab is to help your students learn. And we just all sat down and we sat around and we went, what could we do today to help all of you? And so we're going to keep being here to help you guys, to help your students get through this. So
Everybody needs to expand their teaching toolbox a little bit. So this is a way to do that.
we'll see you guys tomorrow,
And
same time,
one last
same
thing.
plan.
One
Yes.
last thing.
We just
Thank you,
demonstrated a way that you can handle a meeting online with 30 plus people. So
50 plus people.
there, 50 plus